we're going to have to stay on schedule. So, and I know people will be coming and going, and that's okay. I'm Tom Moucka. I think a lot of you guys know me in one form or another. My sidekick is Jeremy Jordan. He's going to act as the host. And we're going to stick to the schedule so that everybody can get out and do their exercise and also take time to um, journal. The journaling is critical and very, very important to this whole thing. Is reflecting on what was said, reflecting on where you are in life and in your recovery. So I'm first up. I don't need to introduce myself. Oh, that's right. We won't be introducing these speakers because you have or will have their bios. So we're going to leave that, leave well enough alone there. By all means, use the guidebook for your journal, and then you can go back and you can add and subtract to that and so on. You might even want to use it for future recovery marathons. So with that said, let me jump in. The first step in the 12 steps is admit. And the first step in the traditional 12 steps says admitting you are powerless over your addiction or destructive habit. I always prefer to use the word destructive habit. I think the word addiction stirs up old thoughts that aren't necessary. But admitting that you have a destructive habit, and this is the key, and that you are powerless over it is a huge step. The most important step. I remember crying out to God. I was in the ministry from sophomore year of college on for over 30 years. And I remember vividly going into a church chapel one time in this really beautiful old traditional church in my town, and and crying out to God, God, take this demon from me. And I meant it with all my heart. I thought for a long time there must be an actual demon inside me. And if it's not an actual demon, then it's the demon of addiction, and take it from me. God, help me. I couldn't figure out why I had no ability apparently to quit it on my own. I white knuckled it for years and years, but I couldn't beat it. And there I was in this church, and it was kind of cool because they left this chapel, also a very formal chapel. They left it open 24/7, and you could go in there anytime. And I went in. I was at the altar kneeling, and I was weeping, kneeling in front of the altar, crying out to God, saying, why? Why can't I get over this? Why can't I beat this? God, where are you? Help me, rescue me. And it went on and on. And it was, I was able to kind of be there for literally for a couple hours alone. And I felt like I was alone. I mean, it was the silence was deafening, and the aloneness was absolutely emptying, and I felt horrible, and I heard nothing from God. Okay, but fact of the matter is, I was alone because I had isolated myself. I wanted so much. I had a secret, and I wanted to keep that secret secret. All right. I wanted to guard that secret and make sure that nobody knew that I was as broken as I actually was. I had to admit, I had to admit to myself first and then to others. And I couldn't come to that point. I kept struggling and working hard at somehow being miraculously delivered from this destructive habit that I just couldn't quit, and and I kept it all very, very secret. The trouble is that when you keep secrets secret, you in fact are hobbling yourself. The secret itself is like a ball and chain. You can't get anywhere if you keep that ball and chain all hidden up and protected. And I was protecting my secret with all I was worth. On the outside, I looked I looked good, frankly. It looked like I had my act together. I was putting up a front on the outside that made me look all together. I was faithful. I was successful. I was everything. In fact, shortly thereafter, I got married and had children. I had this kind of Norman Rockwell family. Everything was just peachy keen and wonderful on the outside, but on the inside, I was a wreck. I was broken. I was lonely. I was afraid. I was thoroughly convinced that something was radically wrong with me, but I couldn't admit it. I couldn't admit it to another person, and I was having a hard time admitting it to myself. I thought that I had. I thought that I had come to terms with that. I really did. I thought, oh yeah, well, the reason I'm crying out to God is because I know I've got a problem. Yeah, that's as long as you think that you can solve that problem quietly and on your own, white knuckling it, or miraculously by God, and God can do that. Believe me, we probably all seen miraculous deliveries, but for some reason, more often than not, God wants us to be healed with us, with and through others. And the beautiful, beautiful first step in the 12 steps is coming to terms with the fact that you need help and willing to admit it. And it's funny, the word admit is very intentional in the 12 steps. Admitting means you can't just kind of do that internally. You need to do that literally. So I vividly remember the time I tried to tell my wife that I had a problem, and I stumbled and bumbled and kind of sort of admitted it, and she didn't get it. She didn't get it. It was too difficult for her to have a good handle on exactly what her knight in shining armor was telling her, that he was flawed. And so when it didn't go over well, I just kind of gave up and I kept it to myself. And my shame grew, my guilt grew, my self-condemnation grew, and that turned into self-loathing. I got to a point where I was angry, not so much at the world or at others. I was angry with myself. Constantly gurgling underneath the surface was this self-loathing. Finally, at the advice of an older mentor, I came to terms. Well, I didn't really come to terms. I came to the point where I realized if I don't tell someone else, if I don't expose my secret, I'm going down with the ship. And so, and this older mentor really didn't know my problem, but said, you need to find a community where you can be real. So finally, I went to my first Samson Society meeting, and there I told my secret. I can only say it was inexplicable in my mind, but once I said it out loud in front of other people and I admitted I needed help and that I didn't have my act together, I honestly felt this lifting of a burden off of my shoulders. So my advice to everyone is, strangely, when you share your weakness, you actually get stronger. I don't understand how that is, but admitting is the first step in the 12 steps, and it is the only way to start the 12 steps. Be honest and transparent with at least one other person.